Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. And wherever you are in this wide, wonderful world, you're welcome to the Global Sales Leader Podcast. I am your host, Jason Cooper. I'm a sales trainer, sales coach, but I'm also a sales relationship coach. What does that mean? I really like people. People are absolutely wonderful. And the more that you can make those relationships with your clients for the longevity, the more it's going to help you grow, the more it's going to help you learn. Today is all about gifted leaders and who employ brilliant and wonderful strategies to great effect. And today, I've got a really interesting guy that I've been following for a number of years, not like a stalker, but I've been following him for a few years online. He's done some incredible LinkedIn learning courses, and I've attended a few of them. So Chris Croft has always been in my mind to connect with and do a podcast with. And you're very welcome, Chris.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honoured to be asked and be stalked. Actually, that's great. Bring it on.
So a little bit about yourself. You've trained in excess of 87,000 people face-to-face, 18 million people online. That's huge.
I know. I worked out the numbers. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's the size of a country or something like that.
It is a small country somewhere else. Well, slightly bigger than the UK. 18 million people. That's...
Yeah, I'm on 20,000 people a day viewing my courses on mostly on LinkedIn Learning, but also Udemy. 20,000 people a day is insane, isn't it? But it's because I just think even if a small proportion of them do some of what I've said, then I've really made a difference, haven't I? So that's that gives me a thrill to think I'm making a difference. It's great. Yeah.
And I think the stuff that you do on training is phenomenal. You said that you've done 25 years of training in front of people. You've written several books, the Big Book of Happiness, Time Management, set of 11 instant guides to time management. Lucky we're on time today. Negotiation, selling, project management, assertiveness, and presentation skills, and 100 great tools. 2020 top 20 things that you need to know about the management subjects, and perpetual happiness diary. Look, you got a massive accolade there, and look, I really appreciate you coming on board today. So it's phenomenal. And I suppose when you look back at that and you go, all the stuff that you've done, I think you've got a bit of gratitude there to show where you've got to and what you've achieved, because doing so many stuff on Udemy and LinkedIn Learning is phenomenal. So what made you start in training? What were the touch points along the way to where you are now?
My career has been so random, really. I'm really interested in careers and how do people choose what job to do. And I started out as an engineer because I just could do maths, mainly because I'm not very good at remembering things. So languages and stuff, I just can't remember words. And whereas maths, you either understand it or you don't, And so I thought, what on earth should I do for a job? And so I did a degree in engineering, and then I started work as an engineer. But I wasn't a very good engineer because the attention to detail required. I'm not very good at that. And so I went up into management because I thought I could just be the manager and that would be easy. I could delegate all the difficult stuff to the engineers, and management was better paid. And also I thought I could make more of a difference as a manager. But then I found that actually I still couldn't make that much difference as a manager because you've still got a boss above you and politics. And I found management quite frustrating and messy. And also you have to do things you don't agree with, and sometimes nasty things like getting rid of people and things. And I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't fun. And I just think part of the meaning of life is fun, and management wasn't fun. That's why they pay you quite a lot to do it, because it isn't fun. And I kind of always fancied teaching, and the trouble is being a teacher is not very well paid, and you have to have a lot of qualifications. I mean, teachers are heroes, I think.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, and I just thought, but I wanted to teach grown-ups rather than kids, because kids are, I think, extra difficult to teach. And so, luckily, there was a job going as a university lecturer, and I applied and was amazed when I got it. So I escaped out of management into being a university lecturer, and I loved it. Teaching the students was just, it was like discovering what you were born to do. And I would urge everybody to keep searching for the thing that you're born to do, because I think everyone's got something they're born to do. And
Yeah.
I think for me it was teaching, because I love it, and I hope I'm good at it. I don't know, but people keep hiring me again, so I must be all right at it. But I find it very satisfying and very interesting to boil a subject down and make it really clear, and then communicate it across to somebody else. So I worked as a university lecturer for a short time, and then they made everyone redundant. But they said you can keep the customers, and we were doing. Yeah, I know, it was perfect. We were doing training for local companies, as well as for the students, and so they just said you can have the goose and all the golden eggs forever. So I went self-employed 25 years ago, and never looked back really. So I've been a self-employed trainer for 25 years. And recently I've got into videoing my stuff and sticking it on the internet, hence LinkedIn Learning. And so that means you can reach a lot more people if you put it on the internet. So yeah, but it was sort of a weird accidental, engineer, manager, lecturer. But I think the only thing I did that was good was that I did relentlessly keep searching. I perhaps should have done it sooner. But at least I didn't just settle and think, oh, I'll just be an engineer forever, or I'll be a manager forever. And I think to be a bit of a restlessly seeking for the right job for you, and you can't calculate what the right one is. You have to just try things until you find the right one.
I was going to say I totally agree with you. And what I was going to say is connecting your passion with your purpose to the dream. And whatever that dream might look like. I've only found that out recently for myself for the last 5-6 years, what I love to do. But you found it 25 years ago. So that must be extra exciting.
Yeah, I still wasted 5 years as an engineer. And by the way, I'm not knocking engineers. I think they're brilliant. I love them. A lot of my friends are engineers. I just was not a good one. And I wasted about, 10 or 15 years as a manager. It's all been good material, of course, and you're the sum of everything you've done. And it's helped with the training that I now do to have had that experience. But I think I probably could have bailed out sooner. I should have realized sooner that management wasn't really my vocation.
But sometimes in life, it's the way that your cards are dealt. Whether it was right or wrong for you at the time, like you found your passion, and you wouldn't have found it otherwise. If you
I'm so glad I found it. And I nearly didn't find it, So I'm really glad I found it. And I do spend a lot of time saying to other people, you got to keep searching. There's a thing called ikigai, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Which is the overlap of the 4 circles. So you've got, you find out what you like doing, and then you find out what you're good at.
Yep.
And I like playing the saxophone, but I'm not good at it. So that's already gone. And then if what you like and what you're good at can also make a difference to people, then, so for example, you might be really good at playing computer games, and you might love playing computer games, but it might not make a difference to the world, in which case it doesn't qualify. But usually if you can find something you like and you're good at and it makes a difference, then people will pay you to do it. And it's not about the money. The money is the 4th thing, and you must never start by thinking what can I make money doing. But I think it starts with what do you like and what are you good at. But to find that sweet spot in the middle there, where there's something that fulfills all 4, that's the thing. And I'm just eternally grateful that I've managed to find training as my thing. But everyone's got a different thing, and and it might be playing football, or being a doctor or a teacher. It could be anything. But the search must go on for your ikigai, which is Japanese for life purpose, I think.
That's right. Yeah, it is. I actually did a post on that literally the other day on ikigai, and I think it's a phenomenal way of thinking. But like yourself, you're connecting everything to what you love to do, and your passion is insatiable because people will resonate from that. Once you're showing your passion, they're willing to learn and they're willing to take note. But at the end of the day, being a trainer, coach, or whatever, you're helping to find that glint in that eye of the other people that they learnt it and they learn it. So how do you, because I'm always fascinated by this, is how do you, because if they don't use it, they lose it. How can you build that habit into people or help help to get those habits into people that they
Well,
learn and they're continual learners?
yeah, I think there's quite a few things people can do. And in fact, when we were talking about this podcast, you emailed me rather tricky question of how do people get a success mindset? What can they do? Because is it just something you're born with, which I'm sure it isn't. I think a lot of it comes from people's parents, actually, and the messages you give to your kids. But wherever it comes from, and it might be just some book you read or anywhere, how do you get a success mindset? And I've got 8 things here which I want to tell you about. Hence my little numbers I've written wherever it is of my 8. And I thought we could zoom through 8 things. If I spend maybe 3 things on each one, we can do them in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I can, but that's my plan, and we could chat about each thing.
I love to give golden nuggets forward to the listening, and this is just the perfect way of doing it. So we're all ears on the Global Sales Leader podcast to understand more about how to get more and how to understand a successful mindset, but something that carries on. Because what you do, there's a transference of communication from me to you, and then you own it. So let's see how well we can own it to the audience as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And once an engineer, always an engineer. So I'm always trying to think, what's the process for this? I've been investigating happiness a lot, for example, and people go, oh, just have a positive attitude. But, what does that actually mean? What do I have to do every day? Every morning when I get up, what do I actually do? And so I've got 8 things here that you can actually do. Although I don't know what you're going to think of the first one on my list, because the first one on my list is to work hard.
Yep.
And I think if you look at successful people, they're always hardworking, aren't they? And that's partly because if you can find something you love, you will work hard anyway. When my wife goes away for a couple of days to visit a friend or something, I don't think, great, I'll just watch rubbish films on TV. I think, great, I can go to my office and work and not be hassled. Oh, you're always working. I actually think, brilliant, I can work. I can, carry on writing my book I'm writing, or I can, because I've got all these things I actually want to do. But I do think, sometimes at school, people say it's uncool to work. Oh, you work hard, and there is a risk, of course, you'll work hard for no reward. So some people say, well, why should I work if I don't know what's going to come from it? But to be successful, you have to work hard. And you shouldn't work hard for the money. Just don't even think about money, because money will follow later. If you do something you love, you'll do it well and money will follow. So I think work hard because you'll enjoy it and you'll achieve more. And, if you've decided to do whatever job you do, so for example, when my daughter was little, I got her a placement at a garden centre. And she just worked for a couple of weeks at this garden centre as a sort of apprentice. And she was fascinated by how they had a lunch break of half an hour. And they used to go and eat their sandwich for 10 minutes. And then they would just sit and look at the wall for 20 minutes until the bell rang. They literally didn't even bring a book. They just used to sit and blankly switch off. And she used to eat her sandwich and then go and work, go back to and say, can I pot up some plants or can I do some pricing?
Yeah.
And they thought she was mad. They were like, why are you working when you're not being paid? And she said, well, I enjoy it. I feel I've achieved more. I want to do stuff. And they just thought she was really weird, but she had a success mentality and they didn't. And I think, you could turn up to work and do the minimum possible just to get away with not being fired and still get paid.
Yeah.
Or you could turn up to work and you could think, given that I've decided to be here for 5 days a week, I might as well do my best and I might as well do stuff I'm proud of. And so I'm really saying, work hard for yourself. Obviously, it's better for customers and it's better for the company and for your job security in the end as well. But really, in a way, I don't care about that. I want to work hard because I want to do something I'm proud of and have results that I can see. So I think, some people have the plan to achieve as much as they can at work, but a lot of people's plan is to do the minimum at work. Yeah, and I think nobody has the plan to enjoy their work. Yeah. So, I think you're not going to live forever. So you might as well do as much as you can in the time you've got. So believing that working hard is a good idea is the first thing I would say that successful people have somehow realized or got into the habit, and you don't get more tired if you work harder. I mean, people who go sort of running, they don't spend their life tired. It actually makes them fitter and stronger, doesn't it? And they go around feeling good because they've done
That's
it.
what I did last night, ironically enough. I went running, feeling a bit sick, but I did it. I would do it because I love it.
Yes.
And it's the same as you work hard, but I always like to say, what's the best use of my time right now? Because as we know, we don't live here for forever and a day. So you might as well enjoy it. And it's amazing what you get out of putting stuff in. And you go, well, that's incredible. That's why I write a diary every day.
You work hard, you feel better and have more energy, and then you work hard. You work, and it's a circle. So being lazy just leads to you feeling lethargic and more lazy.
Yeah.
My favourite book, I think, of possibly any book in the whole world, is The Road Less Travelled. And if you haven't read The Road Less Travelled, by Scott Peck, it's an amazing book, by Scott Peck. And he says in there, one of the many amazing things he says is that laziness is the biggest problem there is. He says laziness is the root of every problem. That's why it's called The Road Less Travelled, because he says take the high road that's got the fantastic views. Don't take the easy low road where there'll just be mud. Take the high road. And so I think he's absolutely right. I think laziness just causes more laziness, and you just end in a sort of circle of lethargy. So I think force yourself to work hard, and then you'll feel better. So that would be my first tip.
I was going to jump in there. I hope you don't mind. I also think you need to be grateful as well, and have a lot of gratitude with what you've done, because I think hard work pays off, but you don't reflect, and you go, well, I've traveled a long way. Let me look back at where I've traveled.
Enjoy the view and
I did along the way. And I would fight, for me, at the end of the day, if I do that, I will reward myself for hard work I've done, or stuff that I've learned along the way. I feel good about myself, or better about myself.
That is one of the simplest and best happiness strategies. At the end of every day, just as you get into bed or whatever, just think of 3 things you're grateful for. Just 3 things, good things that have happened today, or just, happy that you've got a dog you can stroke, or happy that, you're healthy or whatever. And that's one of the easiest ways you can increase the amount of happiness you have in your life, actually, because often things are pretty good, really, and we don't ever stop and think that. We just take it for granted, and we're always striving for the next thing. If only I can have the next thing. But actually where you are now already is pretty good. So gratitude is absolutely a happiness thing. You're right.
I was going to tell you a little story before you get onto number 2.
Okay.
My cousin has sailed his yacht around the world, and he's off in Malaysia or somewhere at the moment. He went to one of these islands, and there was one person living on the island, and he sailed up to the island, and they chatted to this guy. They exchanged food for whatever. And my cousin does a vlog, and he met this guy. He said he's the happiest person in the world. You've never met a happier, at peace person. Like, he's got everything around him. He's got the jungle around him. He can live off the jungle. He sees people every now and again, but he's always got a big smile on his face. And I think it's contentment.
Yeah, you don't need much, do you?
Right.
And we're such consumers. I mean, I really want a pair of those new Ray-Bans. Have you seen those sunglasses where you can listen to music?
Oh yeah.
And also you can take photos. You just go like that. You can take a photo or a video, and but on the other hand, do I really need those? It's just yet another consumer thing they've managed to invent to tempt me with. Because you don't need a lot, and that's why going on holiday is so great, because you're away from all the complicated stuff of your normal life. Often when you're on holiday, you're somewhere quite simple. You might be camping, or you might be just staying in a little villa that's got nothing. The TV's no good because it's in a foreign language. So you have to just sit and maybe read or look at the view, or just have a glass of wine and have quite a simple. So we make life too complicated, don't we? You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall I go to number 2?
Yeah, number two. I want to listen to see what number 2 actually is. And for the audio listeners here, Chris is actually writing on his whiteboard in the background, and he's just written something.
I've written responsible on there. This will all totally make sense if you're an audio listener, by the way. It absolutely will. So I'm a huge fan of Brian Tracy, actually. And we were talking about Zig Ziglar before we went on air. But Brian Tracy, to me, is a total god. In fact, if you get him on this podcast, Jason, you know, whoa,
I'm
maybe.
trying to actually, and I was trying to message him on Clubhouse because I moderate a room on Clubhouse.
Oh, yeah.
And he was actually speaking on different rooms. So I was trying to message him, and he was speaking, and he had his son speaking as well. So I totally concur. Brian Tracy.
Honestly, viewers, if you haven't heard of Brian Tracy, check him out. Have a look at some of his videos or whatever. And Brian, come on to this podcast, Brian. We want you. He's a god to me. But one of the things he said is you are responsible. And he said all negative emotions come from not taking responsibility. So, you know, you get angry, but you've got a choice about whether you get angry, actually. That alone is a fascinating idea, but that's not really what I want to talk about for this. I think that successful people take responsibility for their life. So, because some people are just victims, aren't they? Oh, it's so unfair. You know, it's all right for you. And I think successful people take responsibility. So, you know, if you don't have enough customers, you just think, right, I'm going to have to work a bit harder. I'm going to have a better way. I've got to get some customers somehow, but I will sort this. So, and I think a lot of people think their boss is responsible for everything. Oh, well, my boss will have to solve that. And often bosses are not very good. So then people go, oh, well, I'm really demotivated and it's my boss's fault. And I read somewhere that the biggest reason why people leave jobs is a bad boss.
Yeah.
And a bad boss can have a terrible effect on you. It's true. But quite often you have an effect on the boss and then the boss has an effect on you back.
Yeah.
You know, particularly if you're lazy, let's say, then the boss is going to give you a hard time and you're going to be unhappy and you're going to leave and you're going to blame it on the boss. So I've been thinking about this, and I think there's a circle. I call this my do, get, feel circle.
Okay.
And I'm just writing do, get, and feel on the board for those audio listeners.
Chris, can I just jump in there for a sec? Because I get really passionate about this space, but I also think it's accountability for your own actions. And
totally, yeah.
When you're not doing anything, especially if you're in sales or business and you'll want to be a successful mindset, and we are speaking about that, but you've got to be accountable for everything that you do. You've got to think of stuff to do as opposed to being told what to do. You have to go out for your own actions. And I think it's all part of that.
And people say to me, oh, it's different for you, Chris, because you're self-employed, so you have to do everything. And I'm thinking, well, even employed people are self-employed, really, because you're still selling your service, whatever it is you do, for money, because your boss is going to pay you. So, you know, it's still your job to solve problems and be proactive and have good attitude and all of that. But it's interesting how employed people often go, no, you know, it's my boss's job to make me motivated. And you know, so I would say that, you know, what you do affects what you get in life.
Yeah.
And what you get affects how you feel, and how you feel then affects what you do. So, you know, if you've got a good boss, if a boss does good things, then, you know, you'll get praise and encouragement. You'll feel good. You'll work harder, and then you'll get more praise and encouragement. And you can be in a good circle, but you can also be in a bad circle where, you know, you resent your boss, or you don't agree with what's happening, or you're not happy. And so then you get nothing but hassle from your boss. And then you feel really demotivated, and then you just, you know, you do an even worse job, and you get even more stick, and you get more demotivated. And my point is, you can choose which circle you go into. So even if you've got a bad boss, or a boss who just hasn't done the right things to excite you, maybe they don't understand you, you can still do the best job you can, because then you will get thanks from your boss, and you'll feel good, and then you'll want to work harder. Yep. Whereas if you just say, oh no, because I don't like it's my boss's fault, I'm going to therefore do a bad job, then you're going to be in this circle, and you will be the one who suffers, not them. So I absolutely think you're responsible for your attitude and what you do, and not just how you feel. I mean, you can control how you feel to an extent, but most of your feelings come from what happens to you, but you're responsible for what happens to you. And so, you know, for example, if you're in traffic and somebody you know, cuts you up, or you cut somebody else up by mistake, and they sort of hoot at you and stuff, you've got a choice about whether you get angry and lean out of your window and go, ugh, or whether you just think, sorry, it doesn't really matter. You've always got a choice about how you react, haven't you? So
I was going to suggest there, Chris, I think it's the internal dialogue and how we speak to ourselves. We can speak to ourselves negatively, or we can speak to ourselves positively. And the old reptilian brain that we have inside of us, which is our
yes,
fight, flight, or freeze, it's there protecting us. But that also affects our mood, but also affects our dialogue. And
yes,
what I was going to suggest is, like, even me, I had to go and dash down to sort my car out earlier, and I was in a rush. And when I was in a rush, I noticed that the traffic lights are always hitting red, which angers me, which
yes,
also gets that self-dialogue. Why am I late for this? Rather than just relaxing into it, no, it will change when it changes. And I
yes.
find, for me, and I don't know whether it's my brain's connected to these traffic lights or not, but
Oh, yes, they've got
when I'm
sense.
in a rush, they're always red. But
Yes,
when I feel relaxed, they're always green. So
mm.
maybe that's the analogy in our minds.
I've got self-talk on my list, and you could argue it's part of taking responsibility, but what you say to yourself is so important. And you hear people say, oh, I'm hopeless at giving a talk, I can't give talks.
Yeah.
And you think, well, that's going to become true, because when you
Yeah,
stand
it
up,
is.
this voice in your head's going to go, remember, you're bad at giving talks, and that's what will happen. And people's self-talk, whenever anybody says, I always do this, or I can't help doing this, or why am I so useless, that's just self-talk, isn't it?
It is.
And
I think it's if you believe you can or if you believe you can't, then you're right. I know that's the Henry Ford cliche, but
it's
it's
really
so
true.
true. And it's
Yeah.
the language that you use internally, because it has to come from inside out. Because if you can say stuff but you don't actually believe it and it's not congruent,
It becomes
people
true.
know.
You become what you think about as well, don't you? So, and a sales example, I read somewhere that just before you go in to see a customer, if you just visualize the meeting going really well, I'm going to go and meet this guy called Jason Cooper. He's going to be really nice. We're going to have a complete laugh. It's going to be brilliant. Then when you go in there, it will be. And that's partly because your body language is more positive as you go through the door, but it's also kind of in your mind, you've already got yourself into that mood. Whereas if you think, oh, I've heard about this Jason guy, he's a nightmare, you're going to go in there ready for a fight, and he's going to see your face. It's just going to be bad. So your self-talk should be, I love sales meetings. Whenever I go to meet a customer, it's always great. I'm really good with every type of customer. That's what you must say to yourself. And you've got to say it with belief, of course. You've got to really,
It's like an
really,
affirmation to you.
yeah. And then it will become true. And of course, once it starts to happen, then it gets even easier to believe it.
Yeah.
Because once you've had a few good visits with salespeople, you start to think, actually, I am good with customers. I can do this. But it all starts with, I can do it. So I agree. I think self-talk is incredibly important. And just never say anything bad to yourself about other people or about yourself. And that's something you can actually do. It's an easy thing you can do from now on. Just don't say, I'm bad at this. Just say, I can learn it, or I will get better at this.
And we can. That's the thing. But it's that if you use that can't all the time, then you can't do it. But if you can believe that you can do it, you will do it. Like
Yeah.
last night, my analogy is, I felt a bit sick, but I wanted to go and run. So I just took it nice and easy. But I went to run, and I felt grateful that I did do it. But I didn't run as fast as I normally would. But that doesn't make any difference because I felt fantastic at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, some people have a natural tendency to slip into negative self-talk. Some people always notice the red traffic lights, whereas other people always notice the green lights. And I think, probably more people notice the red. Oh, I've had 3 reds in a row, they say, but they don't notice the 3 greens in a row, do they?
Yeah.
And I think, going back to my little circle, we notice things our bosses do that are bad. And we go, oh, it's really unfair. He did that for them and not for me, or, whatever. And anything bad, we immediately think, right, I got something bad. I'm going to feel negative, and therefore I'm going to do less. And you just don't go into that circle. And even though it's a little bit annoying that we're giving bad bosses a chance to get away with it, I think you've got to, because you'll be the only one who suffers. Yep. So you've just got to think, well, that happened, but that doesn't matter, because I'm still going to work really hard, because then next time I will get my reward.
Something I was going to say, actually, Chris, is I think it's The Life of Brian, where it was the Black Knight. and he was chopping the legs off, then chopping the arms up, but he was still going for it and he still wanted to fight.
Yes.
So that is wonderful self-talk to say that I still want to fight you. My arm might be gone, my leg might be gone, but I'm still up to do it.
He's got the sword in his teeth, I think, at the end, doesn't he? Come on, you coward, he says.
Yeah. And that's self-talk in itself.
It is. So self-talk, I think, is really important. And that takes me to the next success thing, which is something you would have talked about a lot on this podcast, but it has to be on any list. And that is goals. And goals, I mean, I've got various bits of paper, like a degree in engineering. I've got an MBA and but these bits of paper are really not worth that much in terms of the effect they've had on my life. I don't think they've had much effect compared to the piece of paper where I wrote my goals down. And years ago, I wrote my first list of goals. I read a book and it said, write your goals down, and I did. And that changed everything. That is so important to write your goals down. I think if you do one thing from this or from all these podcasts, write your goals down. And I wrote a list of goals and they all happened. Within 2 or 3 years, they'd all happened. And I remember finding the piece of paper and just thinking, whoa, how can that work? And then the engineer in me thought, who cares? Let's just use it. I mean, we don't know how magnetism works really, but we use it. And I just thought, I'm just going to do another list. And in fact, my second list I can tell you about, because it only had 2 things on it. It was to do a job I really enjoy and to only work 2 or 3 days a week. Because at the time I was doing a job I hated and I was working 6 days a week. I was running a factory in South Wales. South Wales was nice, but the factory, oh God, it was a nightmare. And the stress and the pain and I just thought I've got to find a job I enjoy, and preferably if I could work 2 or 3 days a week, that would be fantastic. And then I ended up as a university lecturer, and I loved it. And it was 2 or 3 days a week. We had to do 100 days a year of teaching, which is 2 days a week, isn't it?
Wow.
And now I'm doing a job that I love, which is 2 or 3 days a week. So I wrote that down thinking, I can't imagine how this will ever come true, but I'm going to write it down anyway. And it worked. So I'm on my 3rd list now, by the way, and it's really big. And everything I write down happens. You presumably have a list, Jason, do you?
Yeah, ironically enough, I was looking at my list the other day from last year, and I went, wow, I couldn't believe what I actually achieved. And I completely forgot what I wrote on there, to be honest with you. And I just looked at it again and said, well, I achieved a new website. That's going well. I did a podcast. Now, a year on, it's been voted XY podcast of the year or up and coming podcast of the year. So another tick box. And speaking internationally, I've done that. Another tick box. So
it happens without you noticing, doesn't it? You suddenly think, hang on a minute, I've actually done all those. Oh, what else shall I do? It's almost hard to think of the next step sometimes.
No.
So goals is just the most brilliant thing. I want to say something else about goals, actually. Another of my little diagrams, which I draw a lot, but I really think is important, is that most people only have achieve goals. Yeah. So, what do you want to achieve? And it's all about success. But I want to also say enjoy. So I think you should have goals for things that you enjoy. So, I really like, for example, sitting in the sunshine. I'm looking a bit red today because last week I was in Spain on holiday, sitting in the sunshine. And I love that. I love just to read a book in the sun or chat to my wife sitting in the sun. If I'm sitting in the sun, I'm happy. And I know it's supposed to not be very good for you and all of that. And
but you get the vitamin. Is it the vitamin E, which is a health drive? It makes you feel good.
Well, it stops you getting coronavirus allegedly as well. I don't know, as well as the jab. But and obviously you've got to put on your factor 30 or something. But that's something I enjoy doing. And it's not an achieve goal, it's an enjoy goal. And I want to spend time with, my grandchildren and I want to read interesting books.
You don't have grandchildren, Chris.
I've got one. I've got my first one. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But so absolutely, I think you should have enjoy goals as well as achieve goals.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that. And then the other dimension on this is home and work. So a lot of people have, work goals that they want to achieve. I want to be sales director of Northern Europe or something like that. And they've got that. But all the other stuff they forget. And, occasionally some people come up with this second one here of stuff I want to enjoy at home. So I want to play more tennis or something like that. But what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be interesting to have things that you like doing at work that you want to do more of? What do you like doing at work? Is it traveling the world, visiting customers, or is it, setting up software systems or whatever? But what do you like doing at work? And I think, if you're going to spend 5 days a week at work, you've really got to think about that. And then finally, to achieve some things outside work, I've put home, I mean outside work, really.
Yeah.
And that might be, to write a children's book, or coaching a football team, or local kids football team, or it might be to stand on all the highest mountains in Scotland or something like that. But,
yeah.
And so I'm not talking money here at all. I'm just talking about things that you will enjoy and feel good about. And so I think ideally you would have goals in all 4 of those quadrants there. And if you're thinking, well, I can't think of anything I enjoy at work, then, you need to think about another job, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are big, important things to think about. And every time I write stuff down in these categories, it happens. And the reason for that, I think there are 2 reasons, actually. I'll quickly tell you. I think the first reason is that it's like setting sat-nav in your mind, because you make little decisions every day. And when you're deciding, should I do this or this, if your goals are over there, you're going to be more likely to choose that one. Yeah. So it just sort of keeps it in your mind and programs your internal sat-nav. And it's only very weak, but it's enough to get you in that direction.
But there is a lot behind this, because I've interviewed loads of people and I've read tons of books on this area, and there is a common trait throughout every single one I speak to and every book that I read about this subject, and it is we program our minds. Again, like a brain is like a supercomputer, or the analogy is whatever we type on the screen would appear.
Yes.
But we have to program it in to make it appear to come true, or we're on the road to coming true. So it's like writing goals down. But I love your quadrant as well. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I made that up. I've never seen it anywhere else, but once you see it, it seems pretty obvious, I think. Yeah. But yeah. I think the other reason, by the way, why goals come true is assertiveness and self-discipline.
Yeah.
Because I think, all of your time wasters are either you wasting your own time because you're not very disciplined, and we're back to laziness, or you let other people waste your time. And so in life, there's you and there's other people out there, and you've got to be disciplined, but you've also sometimes got to be assertive as well with people. And goals help hugely with both of those things, because if you've got something you really are determined to do. So at the moment, I'm writing a book on project management, and it's quite a big job, but I'm determined to do it. I'm really disciplined because I've got the goal in my mind of writing writing the best book ever on project management. So that's making me disciplined. It's also making me assertive, because nobody's going to get in between me and this book. I'm saying no to things I don't want to do because I want to spend time on this book. So I think being assertive and disciplined, they come from goals. Yeah, and they are absolutely success qualities, aren't they? I mean, I was
going to say something, actually, because hi, you've listened to the Global Sales Leader podcast. I'm your host, Jason Cooper. This episode is part 1. To follow on, we have part 2, which will be released next week. So I'm excited with this. Chris is a phenomenal trainer, phenomenal coach, and very diverse in what he does. So listen to the first part, and the second part will follow on.